Genshin Impact is out for PC, PS4, and mobile phones, and it's a hell of a fun online RPG to play. It's got some solid production values, albeit a familiar art style, and feels like a good hybrid of anime RPGs like the Tales of series as well as the Phantasy Star online titles. Best of all, it's free to play and pretty packed with content. However, there's one question on everybody's mind. Who are the best characters to get in this game, clearly tailored as a money-sinking gacha title which conveniently requires you to gather a party of 4 to venture to the lush outlands of Tevat? Who should you do rerolls for in case your previous attempts aren't good enough? So here's a little secret and pro tip to enjoy Genshin Impact. Forget about it!
Forget about it.
Don't worry about getting the perfect roll and spending more than a few hours just restarting and trying to roll the perfect anime waifu or husbando. So do yourself a favor, enjoy the game, roll with what you got, and experience what developer MiHoYo has created. And if you want to keep track of collectibles, do check out this interactive world map. With that said, here's a guide which you all can use and is very relevant and practical. A guide that talks about the free characters you get within the first few hours of the game. Just a bit of a setup here. After playing the tutorial and early moments of the game for the first 2 to 3 hours, you'll get a Pyro, Cryo, and Electro hero to make up your first ever Genshin Impact party. As a general rule, your starter characters are more than sufficient to play through and win Genshin Impact's main story mode. Tier and power levels for gacha characters, starters included, only count if you're doing high-level domains and Spiral Abyss dungeon runs. And before we touch upon the first 3, let's talk about whether you picked a boy or a girl here, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the Traveler is your jack of all trades who can be easily ascended and leveled up to the maximum level. Just finish the main quest and level up your Adventurer ranking. You get all the stuff you need to make him go max level. Halfway in the game, you can choose to switch the Traveler's element to either remain Anemo or change it to Geo, via the statues of the 7 you find on the world map. Our advice? Stick to Anemo because the Traveler's basic kit, your spells, attacks, great AO elemental bursts, is adequate enough to fill in the Anemo slot. Unless you happen to luck out on S tier Anemo warriors like Jean, you'll be fine sticking with the Traveler for the majority of the game. Otherwise, just switch his elemental to Geo. So, Amber is more or less the poster child of Genshin Impact, being the game's archer to complement your melee main character. Her kit is pretty standard. She can shoot charged pyro elemental shots, summon an explosive puppet that draws aggro, and a nifty elemental burst super move called Fury Rain that deals AoE damage in a large area. As such, she is a useful starter character to get you through most of the game's quests and pyro-based puzzles. As for the long-term game, however, she may not be worth keeping around your primary party. At that point in time, about, say, 30 plus, 40 plus hours, Amber's combat suffers because she has weak scaling in her elemental skills, and her damage output for her kit isn't high when compared to the other starter characters. Fury Rain is nice and all, but it won't win high-level domains and fights. Our verdict? Good in the main game, but replace her once you get another better pyro character. Kaeya, the eye patch-bearing pretty boy who is common in most anime RPGs, is a pretty good fighter for the most bits of the main story. You will need him for some cryo-based puzzles in the game. His primary attack, Frost Ngaw, comes out in a cone, has pretty short cooldown, and applies cryo status pretty efficiently. His elemental burst, Glacial Waltz, is a decent shield for Kaeya, but has limited range. You kinda need to go up close and personal to enemies, but Kaeya's damage output so far is pretty good. Like Amber, he might become obsolete depending on the gachas you get in the 30, 40, or even 50 hour stretch. If you're lucky, you might even get some better cryo or even better hydro damage dealers and supporters, especially for the high level content you'll be experiencing later. Still, Kaeya is pretty useful in the late game when he fills in the enabler role, which basically amounts to him applying cryo status for other party members to use and exploit. Our verdict? He's pretty good in the main game, but he's a better enabler and cryo status supplier for the rest of the adventure. For damage dealing and whatnot, he's pretty decent, but you might want to replace him if you gain better cryo damage dealer gachas in the future. Lisa, the witchy librarian who fills up the sexy big sister role,
そんな乱暴はやめて
is a pretty formidable free character you should use and keep around. she's not just useful for the main questline, but for the rest of the game. She has fantastic burst damage power and scales over time if you invest in her from start to finish. Her elemental skill, Violet Arc, makes her shoot out homing lightning orbs and comes with an incredibly short cooldown. If you hold down the skill key for this, she delivers a slow charging but devastating AoE electro damage shockwave. The damage increases based on how much conductor status enemies have. So, it's best to have her dish out regular attacks with other enablers, then use Violet Arc's hold ability for the finish. Her elemental burst lightning rose applies electro status to anyone within a large radius, which equals the big damage on her part. Long story short, she's a keeper. Use her as a primary damage dealer as soon as you get her enabling engine going on for other heroes to take advantage of. She's pretty much A tier material all the way. Let's touch upon the most common character you might gacha when you're doing your rounds and spending your currency and spending your wishes. I'm talking about Noelle, the 4-star Geo-Elemental Claymore Packing Maid Knight. She hits pretty hard and gets a good defense buff early on with the elemental skill, Breastplate. It summons a protective Geo Shield that persists even when swapping characters. If you find yourself losing too much life, Noelle's Breastplate and a passive will make sure to eradicate that problem just by being in the party. She also has a useful elemental burst called Sweeping Time that makes her clear mobs better because of its absurdly long range. However, compared to a lot of other characters in that burst DPS and tank line, she doesn't deal as much damage. Verdict, she's a keeper and a cleaner. She is better as a support and a defense tank type character due to her good defense stats. And that is all for a short but sweet starter character guide for Genshin Impact. If you want to check out more videos like these, do hit that subscribe button and the notification icon to get yourself sorted. Thanks a lot for tuning in. To close out this Genshin Impact video, we're going to highlight the top 10 gachas you need when you amass enough fate points. See you then!